Thank you so much for your warm welcome and introduction. I'll briefly introduce myself. I am Melissa White. I'm a Lean Agile trainer, coach, and consultant. I am based in St. Paul, Minnesota, so appreciate all you folks from India joining us late here. And today we're going to talk about team agility versus organizational agility. And why is this an important topic? Cotter's book, Accelerate, for those of you not familiar, talks about how the world's changing at such a rapid pace that our typical frameworks, the frameworks that we've used historically, no longer can keep up with our pace of change. And so we need to rethink how we structure our teams, how we structure our organizations so that we can achieve business agility. We'll start by looking at, in the Scaled Agile framework, which is one framework for scaling Agile and achieving business agility, one of the most popular, if not the most popular framework to do so. There are 7 core competencies associated with this. And so what we'll be looking at here in this webinar is organizational agility and team and technical agility. And you'll see that these are 2 competencies out of these 7 to achieve business agility. So agility across our organizations. So let's take a look here at this now. So first, team and technical agility. So we're looking at team agility versus organizational agility. And team agility is actually a foundational building block to achieve organizational agility. So they aren't really versus each other. They aren't against each other. You need to establish team and technical agility in order to achieve organizational agility. And why do we focus on team and technical agility? Our teams are what makes our organization run. They're what deliver value at our organizations. They're what deliver what delights, excites, and keeps our customers coming back. So 3 dimensions here. So in team and technical agility, when we look at team and technical agility, there's 3 dimensions or 3 core pillars to team agility. It's building agile teams, which we'll take a look at here, and building in quality to our products, our solutions, our offerings. Quality needs to be built in. It can't be added later. It can't be added at it cannot be added at the inspection point or cannot be tested in. And then we build teams of agile teams, which will take a look at how we organize around value to achieve true team agility. So first, let's take a look at agile teams. And this might be something that a lot of us are familiar. Foundational building block of our agile organizations are our agile teams. And what our agile teams are is cross-functional teams, typically of 5 to 11 people, that can independently deliver an increment of value. Typically, we're operating using Scrum and Kanban, which we'll take a look at, to deliver value every iteration. So we're cutting across our typical silos in our organizations to build teams that work collaboratively and can deliver value. Who's on an agile team? Typically, there's 5 to 11 team members that create and define user stories, which are the increments of value that we're going to deliver. They build in quality using agile best practices and built-in quality practices. And they typically contain a Scrum Master, a product owner, and team members. These are usually developers, testers, could be UI, UX, anyone needed on your team to deliver value. Now, the product owner's role in these teams is to define what gets built. What are we going to build? Helps the team define their requirements, understand what value we're going to deliver. Scrum Master serves as the coach and servant leader for our teams. They're really the foundational building block to build these high performing teams, because we want to build high performing cross-functional teams. Scrum Masters are vital to this building of strong teams. They serve to coach in Agile best practices. They support the team. They remove impediments, and it's one of our important specialty roles on our Agile team. Agile teams typically operate with either Scrum or Kanban, or a combination. So we execute often our iterations with Scrum. Scrum is a lightweight framework built on transparency, inspection, and adaptation. And it's all about delivering value iteratively and incrementally, applying short learning cycles where we build, we test, we demo, we review, and we adapt accordingly based on our feedback. We also optimize our teams for flow. We build these cross-functional teams and we put a heavy emphasis on flow. And we usually visualize this flow with Kanban boards. Kanban, it's a Japanese word for billboard. It's all about making our work visible. Typical example of a Kanban board here, teams determine what makes sense for them visualizing their work in their initial setup phase. May make sense to be as simple as to do, doing, and done. And we see how work flows through, helps create transparency, helps improve collaboration, and helps improve flow, and ultimately get to that team agility. The second pillar of team agility is built-in quality. And the goal here is to build in quality from the beginning. It's important that we're thinking about quality early on. Once the solution's already built, 2 weeks before launch, it's much too late to be checking for quality or compliance. So what we do is we as teams apply built-in quality practices across our teams. Establishing flow, we're visualizing our work on Kanban boards. We're getting work moving from left to right through our processes as efficiently and effectively as possible. Peer review and pairing is another very popular built-in quality practice that also improves flow. This is where we might work together to review each other's work, or work together. We might take up a user story, which is an increment of value for the iteration, and work together, oftentimes the developer and tester paired together. We take collective ownership over our work. Everybody is engaged in the process. We're writing stories as a team together. We're understanding the value that we're delivering together. Automation. Anywhere that we can, we want to remove human intervention. So where we can automate tests, where we can automate our flow of work, where we can automate our code deployments. We want to remove that human intervention wherever possible so that we can bring that quality up. And have a definition of done. A definition of done is simply a checklist of items that need to be met for something to move from one stage to another. Could be as simple as I could have a definition of done for my children going to bed. Have to brush your teeth, wash your hands, lay out your clothes for tomorrow, pack your backpack for school, and charge your iPad, and then you can go to bed. simple checklist of items to know when something is considered done. Now that we have those teams, that building block of teams, when we're looking at larger organizations, that team of 5 to 11 is typically not sufficient to scale what we need to build our larger solutions. And so we need to find a way to organize so that we can deliver our larger solutions and achieve that true team agility, which is needed to achieve organizational agility. And how we do this in SAFe, the Scaled Agile framework, is we form what are called Agile release trains. This is a virtual organization. And what does this mean, virtual organization? It doesn't necessarily align with our hierarchy, with our organizational hierarchy. We aren't necessarily reporting up in this virtual organization. This is quite simply a team of agile teams working on a common goal. And we structure our teams this way to foster communication, facilitate flow, and effectively build our larger solutions. Typically, they're anywhere from 5 to 12 teams and 50 to 125 people. We synchronize on a common cadence. So we synchronize on our sprints or iterations is typically what our agile teams are operating in. 2 weeks is the most common length of a sprint, but we're operating in these sprints and iterations. And we also may add a program increment, which is a collection of those sprints or iterations. They're also aligned to a common mission around a single backlog. So they're working together as a large team with a single program backlog. Each Agile release train is maintaining what we call a continuous delivery pipeline. So continuous delivery pipeline is key to both team agility and organizational agility because it's helping us continuously explore what's the right thing to build for our customers. What's the right time to build that for our customers? What's the right set of features? What do people want? Continuously integrating. So this is us continuously integrating our work together as a team. So we're testing, we're understanding how it's working, we're understanding that our system and solution is working as expected. And continuous deployment. We're continuously deploying our code, delivering that value incrementally, and releasing smaller batches. We're moving away from a waterfall approach, and that classic waterfall approach where we're delivering one very large project, product, or solution all at one time. And we're breaking that up into pieces. We're delivering this value incrementally so we can get feedback as a team and improve our solutions. Agile release trains are cross-functional. So what this means is we're breaking down these silos. I'm sure lots of folks are familiar with this siloed approach. We have the business. Oftentimes this looks like potentially a project management office, managing products, moving people to work temporarily. We form teams for a short period of time to build one project, and then we disband and move on. And in order to achieve true team agility, we want to build long-lived teams. Long-lived teams that work together collaboratively on a daily basis, can grow together, can improve together, and deliver value. So we organize those teams, those agile teams onto an agile release train. So we have our cross-functional agile teams and some key leadership roles of 50 to 125 people that are working together to deliver value. And this is how we achieve true team agility, is we organize these folks for delivery of value on a common goal. So what that might look like is a common product. We might all be working on a mobile grocery delivery app. That might be our common goal. We all may be working on a customer tracking portal. That could be our common goal. Our organization's website. We're all working together to deliver value on our website. So these teams are organized around a common solution or set of solutions. Each of these agile release trains, these team of agile teams, are delivering one or more solutions to our organization. So once we establish that team agility, we have our agile teams building quality into our solution, executing in our iterative Scrum cycles, organized around value in agile release trains. That's where we can start to achieve organizational agility. And why is organizational agility so important? Organizational agility is so important because we can't predict the future. We don't know what's going to happen 6 months, a year from now. Nobody, no organization predicted COVID and the impact that it would have on our global marketplace, global environment, global businesses, us personally. But organizations that had achieved organizational agility did best when COVID showed up because they were comfortable with being agile in their strategy, in their approach. And it's because they've mastered 3 dimensions or 3 pillars to organizational agility. So lean thinking people and agile teams is going to be one of the foundational pieces to achieving organizational agility. So we first need to establish that team agility. That is a building block to achieve organizational agility. So it's not one versus the other. They coexist together to achieve business agility. So we'll look at how we need our people to be thinking and how we need our teams to be working together in order to achieve this. Lean business operations. Lean business operations is applying the concepts of lean, which is all about eliminating waste so that we can continually improve our business processes. We can improve our products and services. We can reduce delays, increase our time to market. And strategy agility. This is the ability for us to quickly adapt our strategy to change. It's moving away from only looking at our strategy once a year, once every 2 years, coming up with our big, thick strategy document, strategic plan 2021 through 2025. We're moving away from that, and we're continuously revisiting our strategy to make sure that it makes sense, to pivot as the market demands. If we are going down a path and building a solution that there is no interest for and there's no value in it, we don't continue down that path because it was in our strategic plan, and that's what we're going to do. We pivot, and we do that because we have built our team agility so that our teams are able to pivot. They can change what they're working on. We can change course of action much more frequently than if we don't have that team agility. So let's look at each of these. Lean thinking, people, and teams. In order to get folks thinking in a lean, agile way, we have 2 key things. We have our safe house of lean. This is inspired by Toyota's House of Lean. Lean was born in the manufacturing world, so often sounds relatively manufacturing heavy. But this House of Lean is a metaphor for how we need to think. Value is the roof. That's our overarching goal. We always need to be thinking about what value are we delivering to our customers. Leadership is the foundation. The most important thing to achieving that organizational agility is strong leadership buy-in, strong leadership support. Leaders that understand these principles and practices of lean thinking and team agility so that they can model the right behavior, so that they can speak the language, so that they can help guide their teams to organizational agility. Our pillars here: respect for people and culture, straightforward as it sounds. Flow, that's getting work to flow through our systems effectively and efficiently. Innovation, this is making innovation intentional, making sure that we're focusing on innovation, that we're leaving time to innovate. And relentless improvement, we're always focused on improvement as teams and as an organization. This is all also founded and built on the Agile Manifesto. And it's all about better ways of working. It's not moving away from planning, but it's setting our teams up in a way that they can respond to change. And understanding these concepts are really what's going to get us into the lean agile mindset to be able to move towards organizational agility. So lean thinking, people and teams that apply these principles and values are key to achieving organizational agility. Organizational agility is also moving beyond just agile teams. We're getting away from just being an IT thing. It's very common that when we look at agility, when we look at agile, when we look at Scrum and those practices, we focus on just the teams. And so we do want to start out with our teams being agile, modeling the right mindset, principles, and values. And then we need to understand, what value are we delivering? What is our solution? What is the stream of value that we are operating on, and what is it that we're delivering? And then we want to extend to the rest of the business, because agility is a whole business operation. True organizational agility comes from specializing the principles and practices, involving HR, involving marketing, involving finance in our agility practices, is how we move that needle to true organizational agility. Lean business operations. This is all about understanding, as it said in the previous slide, what are called our value streams. And in any of our organizations that are building solutions, there's two types of value streams. There's operational value streams. And this operational value stream, this is the series of steps that our customers go through to get value. It's the series of steps and the people to get from what we call concept of I want something to cash. So for example, when you decide you want a coffee and you walk into Starbucks, you as a customer, you walk into Starbucks, you walk up to the barista or the cashier and say, I'll take a double tall latte, please. You pay for your coffee, you move to the next step. Your coffee is made, you collect your coffee, you walk out of that store having the value that you desired, your cup of coffee. That is going through Starbucks's operational value stream. You walked through the steps to get from concept, I want a coffee, to cash or value realized, I have exchanged my money for a cup of coffee. That is the operational value stream. We also have development value streams, and this is what we organize our people around. Our agile teams are organized in these development value streams. And what are development value streams? They are all the people and steps that are building the solutions or systems used by that operational value stream. So in that Starbucks example, as you were walking through the operational value stream, you interacted with multiple systems that were built by a development value stream. The point of sale, where they entered your credit card information, they swiped your credit card, they entered your beverage order. That's a system that is developed by a development value stream. And organizing our agile teams in these development value streams to build the systems that enable this operations is how we achieve organizational agility. And ultimately, we need to have strategy agility. And often what this means is not holding too fast to something that we set out to do. If we decide we're going to build this new mobile app and we realize that there's no value in it, people are not downloading it, people are not purchasing it, we don't have any subscribers, we don't continue to sink money into it because we've started the project. So we often do what is called a lean startup cycle. And this is based on Eric Ries's book, The Lean Startup. And this helps us achieve strategy agility because we're not just mapping out beginning to end project plan. This is what we're going to deliver. These are the dates that we're going to deliver the components, and it all gets deployed at once. We start with an increment. We start with what is called a minimum viable product. So we test our hypothesis. We might have an idea. If I build this mobile grocery delivery app, people will order their groceries from home to be delivered because they don't want to go out to the store. That could be a hypothesis. We may build a very small portion of that app for an MVP, the minimum amount needed to prove or disprove our hypothesis. So perhaps we just have an app where you can purchase 10 key staple items, bread, milk, eggs, from one particular store, and we try that out and see if there's interest, if people are using that application. If so, if they're using that, we move on and we continue to build that thing. If not, if no one is utilizing it, we realize no one has any interest in it. We decide, do we want to change our approach? If not, we stop. We do what we call ignore sunk costs. If we sunk $100,000 into testing that hypothesis, that's okay. At least we didn't sink $2 million in building the full product to find out then that no one had any interest in having their groceries delivered to their home. So this is how we achieve organizational agility, is we first start with that team agility, that team and technical agility. And then we move the needle and use those lean thinking people and teams, understand our value that we're delivering, and execute our strategy in an agile way to achieve organizational agility. And on our path to do this, I wanted to share with the group this SAFE implementation roadmap. So these are core competencies of SAFE, or the Scaled Agile Framework for business agility. And so these are the series of steps that we go through to achieve this business agility. We start out in typically a waterfall or ad hoc method. and we identify what are the values that we deliver, who are the folks that deliver it. And this is where we build those agile teams. We train those lean thinking people. We train them in the right principles, practices, and mindsets to achieve that team and technical agility. And then we launch our teams of agile teams. And we start executing as lean thinking teams and teams of agile teams. And we start building our solutions. We're organized for flow. We're continuously delivering value. And that is how we achieve organizational agility. Now, we only scratched the surface of all that there is to these competencies and what is needed to achieve true business agility. So getting the whole business to operate as an agile business. But you'll see team and technical agility typically comes first. Then we can master that organizational agility core competency to achieve true business agility. We also want to look at all those other core competencies that we saw, because remember, we have team and technical agility as well as organizational agility, but we also have several other strategy-focused core competencies that we want to master, as well as execution core competencies to achieve true business agility. So for anyone that's interested in learning more about this, covering more of these core competencies and getting your organization on track to achieve business agility, I recommend a Leading Safe course. So this course is a really great opportunity to dig much deeper into how we build these agile teams, to get some hands-on experience and practice, as well as understand all the core competencies beyond team agility and organizational agility to achieve true business agility. There's also several other specialty role courses. You can find all the information on Knowledgehut's website. We do offer these courses for any of you that are interested in more specialized courses. You can feel free to check that out. You also are welcome. Please feel free to add myself on LinkedIn and I can answer any questions you have as well. But with that, I will open it up to the group. We're at about 40 minutes, so we wanted to save about 20 minutes for questions. Is Safe Agilist is about implementing it in an organization? Yes. So the Leading Safe comes with the Safe Agilist certification exam, where you can become certified as a Safe Agilist. And in that course, we look at how do we build those high-performing teams, who's on it, how do we execute on our work, and it looks at all the steps needed to prepare to launch those agile release trains, those team of agile teams. And we look at the implementation roadmap, how leaders lead the change, how leaders lead by example. So yes, it is all about implementing it at an organization. And what is the structure of the Leading Safe course is a question. So in that Leading Safe course, we start out understanding foundationally what SAFE's all about, who's on the teams, who's on the release trains, and then we go all the way through planning a vision for what we're going to build. We look at customer centricity, design thinking, defining what the right thing is to build. We prepare ourselves to launch our agile release trains, and then we look at how we execute what we call PI planning, which is our planning event to decide what we're going to do in our next typically 10-week iteration. And then we execute as an agile release train. There's a lot of hands-on practice on what that event looks like, how we plan our work, how we write our features, how we write our stories, and then we look at how we deliver on that as well. We also look briefly at lean portfolio management, which is rethinking about how we fund our investments and how we define our strategy. Good questions. So let's see, they're coming in a lot now. Okay, so this one's a longer one. I heard that SAFe is very prescriptive. What is your take on this? Great question. I'm really glad that you asked that, because that is sometimes what folks say, is that SAFe is very prescriptive. And what SAFe is a framework, and it's actually designed to be very configurable for your organization. And what I always say about it is I say that it's tools, not rules. So part of that Leading SAFe course that we discussed is learning our 10 SAFe Lean Agile principles. A good deal of time is spent on learning those SAFe Lean Agile principles. And the reason that we focus on the principles is because we as coaches know that no two SAFe implementations are exactly alike. And since no two implementations are exactly alike, what we want to do is equip people with the principles to guide their decision making. So if a practice has to change, if a practice isn't working for your organization, you look at the principles and you change that practice in alignment with those principles. And it's also, there is structure that we teach, but really it's just structure to help us execute more effectively and more efficiently. Typically, some of the results we see based on the published case studies is over 50% decreased time to market, because we're operating in a more effective way and eliminating waste. If you are going into a company where the SAFe Agile team doesn't have a dedicated PO, what would you at a high level recommend as a strategy to get the organization to grasp how critical that is? Good question. Thank you, Jason. So what I would do is I typically start out by asking questions, and probably the first question I would ask in this organization is, how do teams know what they're working on, and if what they're working on is correct and delivers value? Because ultimately product owners are there to define the what, to provide that guidance and clarity to the team when they're executing on a story and have a question. That product owner is there to be there every day to serve as the voice of the customer and the business, to answer the team's questions, to help ensure that we're delivering what's valuable, that we're delivering what the customer needs. And so I would start by asking, how do your teams know what to do, what to deliver, and if it's valuable? Okay, let's see here. This one's a long one. Oh, there's one before it. How do you best train Agile teams? Shadowing an experienced collaborator expert, or course, or both? So how do we best train Agile team members? I recommend that if you are looking at undertaking a huge undertaking of an Agile transformation, that it's vital that all team members are trained, that they understand the mindsets, the principles, the language that we're going to use, because we need to establish that shared understanding and be able to communicate effectively with one another. And so typically we recommend that all team members get trained in the principles and the practices, as well as their specialty role. So Scrum Masters are trained as Scrum Masters, product owners are trained as product owners, because what that does is that helps us set a strong foundation and a shared understanding of what it is we're trying to do and how we're going to do it. Okay, so as a PM, how do you convince leadership in an organization to structure teams with less SMEs but more dedicated time to less projects? Right now, staffs are spread across way too many projects and many SMEs that as a PM, I don't have a go-to person to get answers. It's highly inefficient and ineffective currently. So I'm going to assume that PM equals product manager. or I'm sorry, project manager. I'm going to assume project manager is what it sounds like here. So typically, this is a big question here. So I would say that in general, you need to look at your team structure. I think the 30-second answer there is look at how your teams are structured and also help leadership understand what impact that has to flow. Because ultimately, my guess is that if you don't have a go-to person, your flow of value delivery is significantly impeded by that. And so I would try to help leadership understand where those delays are, where those impediments are, and what the impact is likely how I would start in that situation. Okay. I think that I have addressed all the questions unless anyone has any additional that they would like to add. I'm just seeing thank yous, so you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure to share this. The name of the book by Eric Ries, yes, it is called The Lean Startup. I even have it handy to show off. So The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, it's a really great way to look at how do we build just enough to validate a hypothesis. You are most welcome. Okay. Well, if there's not any further questions, oh, I do see one now. For team members for an agile system, you need to be technically experienced. How do you train people to be technically high enough in this structure? So typically, our team members, when we're in our agile teams, our scrum master is not necessarily a technical role. They don't have to have any technical background. Product owner oftentimes can be slightly more technical, but not incredibly. Team members, usually those are developers, QAs, but possibly UI, UX, anyone needed to deliver value. So it's not immediately required that they are technical, but if we are looking at how do we train folks to be technically sound enough, I would say that there's a lot of good classes. If we're looking at practices, typically pairing and peer review built-in quality practice is really beneficial to help build those understandings. So typically that's somebody that's more experienced working with somebody that's less experienced. Sometimes that looks like a developer working with a tester. And it can help us understand each other's roles a little better or get up to speed and become more technically sound. Oh, could you please share the author of The Lean Startup? It's Eric Ries, E-R-I-C-R-I-E-S is the author of The Lean Startup. How do you scale up to company level? So what this looks like, and this is really where that Leading Safe course, we spend probably a couple hours in the morning just talking about this in the beginning. So I'll try to synthesize it for you as best as possible. But what we typically do is we start with our agile teams. Our agile teams are our foundational building block of our organization. And when we need more than one agile team to build our solutions, we put them on those agile release trains and we create a team of teams. And that is where we start with that scaling. Now, once we're executing in our team of agile teams on those, remember, development value streams, delivering value, we then once we reach a proficient level there, we then also look at starting to scale up our budgeting and strategy practices utilizing lean portfolio management. And that in itself is an entire 2-day course as well, where we look at how do we fund our investments, how do we define our strategy, and that's really how you start to scale up that transformation. Appreciate everybody attending. And it looks like we do not have any remaining questions. So with that, I will say thank you so much, participants, for attending. Really appreciate you being here. Like I said, please stay in touch. You can find me on LinkedIn. Melissa White is my name. Would love to connect with all of you.